The house was finally quiet. The only sounds were the hum of the refrigerator, the distant murmur of the city, and the soft, even breathing of Liam, age 5, and Chloe, age 3, asleep in their beds. My own breathing was shallow, hurried. The day had been a marathon of snacks and tantrums, storybooks and soiled clothes, school pickups and playground politics. The endless cycle of childcare, meal prep, laundry, cleaning, and refereeing sibling squabbles. It's a kind of work that has no clocking in, no clocking out, no performance reviews, and certainly no quarterly bonuses. It's demanding, relentless, and often utterly invisible. I loved my kids more than anything. Deciding to be a stay-at-home parent had felt right, a privilege I was grateful for. I had enjoyed my job before, marketing, fast-paced, creative. But when Liam was born, the pull to be home had been undeniable. James, my husband, had a demanding job in finance, the kind that paid well but consumed his time and energy. My stepping back made sense, financially and logistically. Years slipped by in a blur of developmental milestones and parent-teacher conferences. My identity shifted. I was Liam and Chloe's mom, a room parent, a volunteer at the school library. All important roles, vital roles, I knew. But somewhere along the way, I felt like Maya the individual, the one with her own ideas, her own professional capabilities, had gotten lost in the shuffle. My world had become very small, very focused on the immediate needs of two tiny humans. And sometimes I felt like my contributions, the sheer volume of work involved in keeping our lives running smoothly, were invisible to everyone else, including James. James was a good husband, a loving father when he was home. But his job was his world. He came home late, often exhausted, and his mind was usually still buzzing with deals and deadlines. My days, filled with tiny victories and miniature dramas, seemed small in comparison. When he asked about my day, it was often a perfunctory question as he scrolled through emails. My challenges, navigating a picky eater, managing a sudden fever, mediating a complex toy dispute, felt trivial next to his high-stakes corporate world. I remember trying to talk to him about a particularly difficult day, one where both kids had been sick and I hadn't sat down for more than 5 minutes straight. He listened, nodded, but then launched into a story about a tough negotiation he'd had. His problems were quantifiable, his successes visible, landing a deal, hitting a target. Mine were intangible, a peaceful afternoon, a healthy meal eaten without protest, a new word learned. His work had external validation. Mine had smiles and sticky hugs, which were wonderful, but didn't always fill the part of me that craved intellectual engagement, a sense of building something concrete. The feeling of being undervalued wasn't something James did intentionally, I don't think. It was more subtle, a societal thing, amplified by our different roles. His job was seen as the real work, the income-generating, visible contribution. Mine was seen as the default, the support system, necessary but not requiring the same level of skill or effort. Conversations about money, future plans, even just how we spent our time, often subtly reinforced this dynamic. My time was flexible, interruptible, less valuable. The spark of the idea came, as many great ideas do, from a point of frustration. I was trying to find educational toys and activities for Liam and Chloe that were engaging, well-made, and didn't just add to the endless clutter. I spent hours researching, reading reviews, comparing options. It struck me that there was a gap in the market for curated, high-quality educational subscription boxes specifically designed for different age groups, taking the guesswork out of it for busy parents. Something that combined learning and play, delivered right to your door. The more I researched, the more the idea took hold. I remembered how much I had enjoyed product development and marketing in my old job. This felt like something I could sink my teeth into, something that used my skills, my knowledge as a parent, and allowed me to create something of value. It wasn't just a way to pass the time. It felt like a genuine business opportunity, a chance to build something that was mine. I spent weeks sketching out ideas, researching suppliers, looking into subscription box logistics. I felt a thrill I hadn't felt in years, a sense of purpose that extended beyond the immediate demands of parenting. I decided to call it Curiosity Crate. Finally, I worked up the courage to talk to James about it. It was a Saturday morning, relatively calm. "James," I started, nervously. "I've been working on an idea. A business idea." He was reading the paper, sipping his coffee. He looked up, a pleasant, slightly distracted expression on his face. "Oh, yeah? A business idea? For what?" "Educational subscription boxes for kids," I explained, my voice picking up speed as I laid out my vision. "Curated, high-quality, hands-on activities. I think there's a real market for it. I've been doing a lot of research." He put the paper down, but the look on his face wasn't excitement or curiosity. It was that familiar, slightly patronizing smile. "Subscription boxes? Like sending out toys in the mail?" "More than toys," I insisted. "Activities, learning materials, craft supplies, all tied to a theme. It's about making learning fun and easy for parents." "Right," he said, nodding slowly. "Sounds cute, honey. A nice way to keep busy." Cute. Keep busy. There it was. The immediate dismissal. He didn't see it as a serious business venture, as something with potential. He saw it as a hobby, a little project to occupy my time while I was just watching the kids. The sting was sharp, familiar. It wasn't just his words. It was the complete lack of recognition for the research I'd done, the thought I'd put into it, the genuine business potential I saw. My ideas, my ambition, were being filtered through the lens of my current role, stay-at-home mom, and therefore couldn't possibly be serious or impactful. "It's not just about keeping busy, James," I said, trying to keep my voice even. "I think this could actually make money. Be a real business." He chuckled softly. "Honey, starting a business is hard. Really hard. It takes a ton of capital, time, expertise. Are you sure you're ready for something like that? With everything else you're doing?" He gestured around the living room, the implicit message clear. "Your plate is full with the important, invisible work of being a mother. Don't add something frivolous that you're not equipped for anyway." My initial excitement deflated slightly, replaced by a familiar feeling of being misunderstood, underestimated. Extended family reactions weren't much better. My mother-in-law, bless her heart, said, "Oh, that's a nice little craft project, dear. Make sure it doesn't distract from the children's needs." My own sister, successful in her corporate job, asked, "Isn't that market already saturated, Maya? Are you sure you're not just wasting your time?" The doubts they planted took root. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was being naive. What did I know about running a business now, after years out of the workforce? The psychological triggers were everywhere. The undervaluing of my current demanding role, the fear that my professional skills had atrophied, the struggle to assert my identity as something more than mom. But beneath the doubt, the idea persisted, a stubborn little flame refusing to be extinguished. Their dismissal didn't kill the dream, it added fuel to the fire. I wouldn't just build this business. I would build it to prove them wrong, but mostly to prove to myself that I was still capable, still relevant, still me. The next few years were an exhausting blur. My cute little project became a relentless second job, squeezed into the margins of my already packed life. My work hours were from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m., after the kids were asleep, fueled by copious amounts of cold coffee. Sometimes, I'd grab an hour during nap time, hunched over my laptop at the kitchen table, the detritus of lunch surrounding me. Balancing everything was a constant struggle. Guilt was my unwelcome companion. Was I spending enough quality time with the kids? Was the house messier than usual? Was I neglecting James? He still didn't seem to grasp the seriousness of it. He'd walk into the kitchen at 11 p.m., see me surrounded by prototypes and packing materials, and say, "Still playing with your boxes, honey?" The word playing grated on my nerves. This wasn't play. This was hard work, mental and physical. Financially, we started small. I used some savings money I had before kids. Every expense was carefully considered. Buying materials in bulk meant trips to warehouses with two restless children in tow. Learning to build a website on my own meant deciphering code late at night instead of sleeping. Figuring out marketing meant navigating social media and online ads, learning skills I hadn't needed in my previous career. Setbacks were frequent and demoralizing. A supplier sent the wrong materials, wasting time and money. My first attempt at a website was clunky and didn't convert sales. My initial marketing efforts felt like shouting into the void. There were days I sat at my kitchen table, surrounded by unsold inventory, the house a mess, the kids demanding my attention, and thought, what am I doing? They were right. This is foolish. Imposter syndrome was a constant battle. Conversations with James about the business were frustrating. He'd ask about sales figures, but didn't seem to understand the effort involved in getting those sales. When I needed quiet time to take a business call, it was often treated as an inconvenience. Can't that wait until the kids are in bed? He'd ask, not realizing that after the kids were in bed was already packed with hours of work. I needed his support, his belief, but it felt like he was still waiting for me to give up. I found community online. Forums and social media groups for parent entrepreneurs were a lifeline. Sharing struggles and small wins with others who understood the unique challenges of balancing business and family was invaluable. Their encouragement, their shared experiences, helped combat the isolation and the internal doubts. Hearing about other parents who had turned their hobbies into thriving businesses fueled my determination. Slowly, gradually, things started to shift. The first few orders trickled in. Then came a positive review on a parenting blog, a small mention, but it led to a surge in traffic and a few dozen new orders. It was a tiny victory, but it felt like a monumental win. I packed every box myself, wrote personalized thank you notes. Connecting with satisfied customers, seeing photos they shared of their kids, using the boxes, that was the fuel that kept me going through the sleepless nights and demanding days. I started generating a small, but consistent, income. It wasn't enough to replace James's salary, not even close, but it was real money, earned through my own effort and vision. It was tangible proof that this wasn't just a cute hobby. I used the money to reinvest in the business, better materials, of a more professional website, targeted ads. My confidence grew, not because of external validation, but because of internal proof. I was learning, adapting, building. I was successfully juggling the demanding roles of mother and entrepreneur. My time management skills, honed by years of coordinating family logistics, were surprisingly applicable to running a business. My understanding of children's needs and interests, gained through hands-on parenting, was the core of my product. My work as a stay-at-home parent hadn't made me less capable. It had given me a unique set of skills and insights. The turning point, the moment when my success became undeniable, came unexpectedly. A popular parenting magazine featured Curiosity Crate in their annual gift guide. The article praised the quality of the materials, the creativity of the activities, and the value it provided to busy parents. The response was overwhelming. Orders flooded in. My website crashed. I was working around the clock, recruiting friends and family, the ones who hadn't been dismissive, to help pack boxes in my living room. The revenue jumped dramatically. It wasn't just a little extra income anymore. It was substantial. James saw the numbers, the frantic activity in the house, the article in the magazine. The cute hobby was now a legitimate, thriving business taking over our home. His reaction was a mixture of surprise, pride, and a hint of bewilderment. Maya, I had no idea, he kept saying, looking at the stacks of shipping boxes. This is incredible. Extended family reactions were also telling. The dismissive questions stopped, replaced by congratulations, apologies, and attempts to understand how I had done it. My sister called, genuinely impressed. My mother-in-law, visiting amidst the chaos of fulfilled orders, looked around and said, My goodness, dear. You've really built something here. The conversations with James shifted. He started asking about the business with genuine interest, offering to help with logistics or finances. One evening, after a particularly long day of packing orders, he found me collapsed on the couch, utterly exhausted. He sat down beside me. "I'm sorry, Maya," he said, quietly. I looked at him, surprised. An apology wasn't something he offered lightly. "I'm sorry I didn't take you seriously," he continued, looking at my tired face. "When you first told me about this, I just saw the stay-at-home mom part, I guess. I didn't see the businesswoman. I underestimated you. I didn't see how hard you were working, how much this meant to you." It was an honest admission, a validation of the invisible struggle I had been fighting for years. The sting of the past dismissals was still there, a faint echo, but his words, finally acknowledging the depth of my effort and capability, began to heal it. "It was hard, James," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "Working all day and then working all night. Feeling like I had to prove myself, not just to others, but to you too." He took my hand. "You proved it," he said. "And I'm incredibly proud of you." Our marriage dynamic began to change. James saw my work, my time, my energy differently. There was a new level of respect, a more equal partnership. My time for the business wasn't an inconvenience anymore. It was a necessity for a venture we both now recognized as valuable. Curiosity Crate continued to grow. I eventually moved the operation out of my living room into a small warehouse space and hired a few employees. I was able to provide for my family financially, but the real success was the personal fulfillment. I had taken an idea born out of my experience as a parent and turned it into a thriving business. I was still Liam and Chloe's mom, and that would always be my most important role. But I was also Maya, the founder, the entrepreneur, the woman who built an empire from her kitchen table while balancing nap schedules and school runs. They thought she was just watching the kids. She was building an empire. And in the process, she had rebuilt herself, stronger, more confident, and finally, seen. The satisfaction wasn't just in the financial success, but in the earned respect and the undeniable proof that her capabilities were never diminished, merely waiting for the right moment to flourish.